Welcome back to part 2 of this Minotaur Berserker tutorial. Where we left off, we just purchased a broad axe of freezing. It strikes me that I haven't actually explained what an axe does at all. So the whole thing about axes is that they have a cleave attack. So they'll primarily hit the enemy that you target with most of the damage, but then on all surrounding squares, if there are enemies, it will also hit for a lower amount of damage those enemies. So axes are really cool because it lets you fight whole packs of enemies at once. Our question now becomes, do we want to read our enchant weapon scrolls on this hand axe or broad axe of freezing? It's not really a straightforward answer, and I would answer in this case yes. The reason for that are a few things. One, the hardest part of crawl tends to be in the early game because you have the fewest amount of options. For example, at the moment we don't have curing, so we don't have scrolls of teleport, we don't have scrolls of blinking, etc. So we're in a much more precarious situation now than later on in the game. So every advantage we can get now, such as having a stronger weapon, will really help us. Even if we ultimately end up with a bigger axe than this, and it's not as enchanted as it could be because we used our scrolls, it won't matter quite so much because we'll have other ways to deal with situations. That's not just hitting things with an axe. So I'm going to go ahead. Here we go. R is for read, and then we now have a +3 broad axe. There are a couple of other reasons. One is that freezing is a really good ability through a lot of the mid game. Many enemies, especially through Lair, which hopefully if I don't die you'll see fairly soon, is sort of the first mid game place that you go. Many of the enemies, when hit by freezing weapons, will be slowed, so it's a very useful weapon. And then also, if we have a look at the broad axe, let's see. You can see all these things about axes. Hits all enemies adjacent. The thing I'm trying to show you is that here, it is a one-handed weapon. A broad axe happens to be the most powerful one-handed axe. The reason that one or two hands is important is because if you have a one-handed weapon, it allows you to wear a shield. I happen to be a very strong proponent of shields. It's kind of a, I don't know, shields are a very divisive thing in crawl. Some people hate them, some people love them, and some people are a bit more in the middle. But especially between never shields and always shields people, it's quite funny how heated that argument can get. I tend to probably fall somewhere in the middle, but definitely more towards the I like shield side. So the fact that I have a one-handed weapon as well means that I'm a bit more likely to be happy with my broad axe as a long-term weapon than someone else might be. Let's see. The other thing that I was going to show you, which is quite important, is here. It shows you the weapon's minimum delay, 0.7, is reached at skill level 18, and our current skill is 6.9. So what that's talking about is what level of skill we need to get before we're swinging at the fastest possible speed with our axe. In this case, it's 18. So remember when I was saying how your primary weapon is pretty much always your most important skill? The reason for that is that we're trying to get to min delay. Once you're at min delay, you don't really need to train it more, so as quickly as possible we're trying to get to 18. If we didn't train anything else, only axes to 18, we'd be extremely glass cannon, so that's why we're also doing the other things. And to explain min delay, if you have a look here next to time, this shows in time how long our whole game has taken in terms of, they're called aughts. which is AUT, which is an arbitrary unit of time. That doesn't matter so much. What matters more is this number here in brackets. At the moment it's 1. That number there tells you the length of action that your last thing took. So if I move, because I'm a normal speed race, it takes 1. If I wait a turn, it takes 1. If I swing my axe, 1.3. And that's what we're talking about min delay. So if I'm fighting an enemy that has, let's say they generally attack once per turn, because I'm taking 1.3 attacks for every swing, 1.2, 1.3, 1.3, there's a chance that in my one swing of an axe, an enemy can hit me twice. So let's have a look at our hand axe, because that requires less skill. So that's at 1, 0.91. The lower speed your weapon, the better, obviously. But the reason why this is important as well is that you don't necessarily want to pick up the heaviest weapon you can find and use immediately. This is especially, it tends to happen a lot to people playing ogres, because ogres they're one of only 2 races that can pick up giant clubs. So people are like, oh yeah, I found this giant club, this is great, I'm gonna smack stuff. But because their skill is too low to use it effectively, they're swinging with it really slowly. And quite often they won't even know that that's an issue. And especially if you have a lot of enemies around you, if you're swinging really slow swings, it means that everything around you is going to have multiple attacks at you per go. So that's why axe skill or weapon skill, very important. And why also part of enchanting it is that for quite a while I'll be happy with a broad axe. Even if I find a heavier axe, such as a battle axe, because it's going to swing even slower than this, there's a good chance that I won't want to use it straight away anyway. So this weapon is good for now. That was a lot of talking. Let's do a bit more playing. More lignification. Okay. We just found a wand of slowing. Okay. You can see that it has a question mark. That means we don't know how many charges it has. If we, capital V is our evoke button, or, oh man, this would be so tedious. If you go to I, then to R, you can evoke it that way, but capital V is our evoke button. Wand of slowing is one of the less impressive ones. I'm probably just going to drop it actually, but before I do that, I'll show you. Now that I picked up a wand, I now have the ability to train evocations. So we could turn evocations on. I won't, because a wand of slowing is not a very good reason to. If I were to find some special evocable item such as a rod, or I found a stronger attack sort of wand, it might make me train it. And in fact, a lot of people will advocate training some evocations every game. If I can get away with it, I'll try not to, so I won't. But another thing which I haven't shown you is this APT column, which is your aptitude. So if you remember when I was saying that Minotaurs are very good at fighting, you can see next to all these we have a +2 aptitude, +2 armor, +1 dodging. It means that they'll level up in these skills very quickly. Have a look at spellcasting, -4. Stealth, -1. Evocations, -1. Goes to show, in fact, if we have a look at all of them, everything on the left, all these fighting things, shields, they're all pluses. Have a look at all the magic, -4, -3, -4, etc. Which is why Trog is a very good god for a Minotaur. More play. We just found a new scroll of identity. Let's read that. Let's do this potion, Ambrosia. Ambrosia is another interesting potion. It makes you confused, but it increases your healing a lot. In the early game, most enemies won't be able to overcome that healing. So if you're dying, you can quaff that and sort of walk around confused for a bit while you heal up. I'm actually going to drop the one slowing because I'd just rather not feel around with it. It's kind of like the javelins. Really, if I wanted to, I could try to slow enemies as they approach me, but I'm a Minotaur Berserker, so I'm not going to bother. Okay. Here's a centaur. It's a yellow enemy. Centaurs, not quite so dangerous for us because we're strong, but they fire arrows at you, and those arrows at range really hurt. Unfortunately, where I've met the centaur, and they're fast too, is I'm at the end of a long corridor. So ideally, if I had met him on this corner here, I could have stepped back around the corner so it couldn't see me and then waited. Because I'm at the end of the corridor, I kind of have to try to move towards him. Rather than run all the way at him, so he could just go shoot, 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 I'm going to try to step around one of these corners and make him come to me. So, and I move up. So now he's going to stop shooting me and he'll come to me. So I'll wait, and there we go. Hey, and there we go. We're just talking about shields. There's a large shield. So I really like shields. I really like large shields better than shields. Let's do it. You can see we have 13 AC, 9 EV, 0 shield. I'm going to pick this up with G. Capital W for wear. We put the shield on. Now we have 11 shield, which is going to make us a lot more survivable. And in addition, we have a nice axe that is good as a one-handed. We'll go to M for our skill menu and we'll turn shields on. So now we're going to start training shields. If you have a look at the shield itself, you can see that, especially for a large shield, the skill to remove the penalty is 25. So pretty much means until probably close to the end of the game, if we get there, it's going to give us a bit of a penalty with our attack, so it makes it more likely to miss and slows it a bit, and also it penalizes our dodging. But the fact that we just got 11 shield, and that's going to increase a lot as we train the skill, means that I'm more than happy for that. We got another ring. We do have remove curse, so let's try that. It's a +2 ring of strength. Rings of plus attributes are not really that exciting. So, I mean, we'll wear it because we have nothing better, but we're not super happy about that. Another ring, let's try that one. A ring of magical power. Absolutely useless. We have no use for magic at all. A tip for dropping the last item you picked up, it's capital D. If I do that, I'll drop the ring. And we're pretty much just continuing walking around and just hitting things. This is a yellow enemy. It also has poison, and we don't have curing, but really we are feeling really strong at the moment, especially with our new axe and our new large shield. So at D4, as a Minotaur Berserker with a broad axe of freezing and a large shield, there's really not a lot that can threaten us, so I'm happy just to kill things. If you really were worried, you could Zerk, but not a big deal. ID and unscroll, brilliance, very little use. We'll carry it just for, there's a small chance at some point later in the game, there are some enemies that can steal your intelligence. As we only have 4, we could go brainless. This is like I don't know, it's kind of like whether you're a hoarder or not. We have how many? 52 item slots. So it's a question of, do you want to carry around in your 52 item slots all these things that have a very small % chance of doing anything? I'd say mostly yes. But you might not, so I'll carry it. We've got 2 scrolls of this one. Enchant armor. Let's do our boots. Hound is yellow, but again, it's just a melee enemy and we're super strong. Here's a centaur. Okay, so look at all this open space between us and the centaur. Really, we don't want to just run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiles where it's going to shoot us 6 times. We happen to have found him on a door. So we're going to step back. There's an arrow blocking the door. What I was going to say is what you can do is close the door, except there's an arrow here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to step forward. I'm going to pick up the arrows. Oh my god, he keeps shooting me. Okay, this is a terrible example. Alright, and we're dying. Let's just go kill him. Okay, so let's go over to this other door. What I was going to show you is, unfortunately, the centaur's arrows kept blocking the door, so I couldn't shut it. But a very good tactic with doors is that you can use capital O to open and capital C to close. So quite often you might open a door and there's, well, let's say I was here when we saw that centaur over here. What I could do is close the door and then wait for the centaur to come to me. Doors can be a very powerful way to force enemies to come to you. Let's get rid of those arrows. Crimson Imp just kind of blinks around. It's not very rarely a threat to you. They're more than anything, they're kind of annoying. Phantom is similar. They blink around just to annoy you. Okay, we've done this floor. Let's go down to the next one. It's Shift X, greater than sign, greater than, and as we go down, we hear the sound of rushing water. Tells you here. There's an entrance to the sewer on this level. Some floors, if you're lucky, will have a special, they're called a portal, where if you go in those portals, if you're lucky enough to find it quickly before the portal closes, you can get special items. Not special, but you can find extra items, etc. Okay, an ogre, it's yellow. He's wielding a giant club. The thing about ogres is that they attack really slowly and they tend to miss a lot, but an ogre can do close to 40 damage per shot if you're unlucky. We have 70 health, we have some AC too, but if we just for simplicity's sake say that an ogre could pretty much, if he rolls max damage on 2 attacks, could almost 2-shot us. In practice he won't because we have AC and we have shield, but the fact remains that an ogre is something that you really want to kill quickly and you should be very afraid of. So we're going to Zerk. Because we've Zerked and we're now going to wait, it means that our chances of finding that portal have just decreased. But, hey, I lied, it's right there. But it would have been worth it. As a general rule of thumb, portals are nice to find, but you shouldn't jeopardize your character and run off unhealed, etc. in order to try to find them, because they're kind of like a bonus. You can win the game without them. To enter a portal is the same as going downstairs, greater than sign. And a sewer can turn up from, I think, D3, so at this late stage there shouldn't really be anything that threatens us in here. So we're pretty much just finding extra potions and extra scrolls. There's not likely to be, you can see a whole bunch of scrolls, it's not likely to be in special weapons or any special armor or anything like that in the sewer. You'll see that as I'm fighting enemies, I'm fighting them on the land rather than in the water. There are 2 things that water does. One, it makes you move slow, so if you remember with the time here, if I'm moving normally, it takes me 1. Through water, it's taking me 1 point. Up to 2. The other thing about water is if you attack while standing in water, you have a much, you can see that, your unstable footing causes you to fumble your attack. If you fight from water, you're much more likely to mess your attacks. So in this situation here, you might be tempted to next to the rat with my axe. I'll just hit it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to step out of the water. Okay, centaur. So again, for I think the 3rd time now, we've met a centaur in the open. So you can see it's roughly the same number of tiles to run back to this doorway as it is to run at the centaur. So you might be tempted to just run at the centaur. The thing is, in addition to being shot this whole time, for all we know, there's another centaur here, there's another 3 centaurs here. And so, rather than run at the centaur and reveal all these potentially unknown enemies, we'd rather run back to explored territory, even though it's roughly the same. Look at all these blocks. That's why shields are so good. I'm going to shut this door. Some enemies can't open doors, the hound is one, so it's going to sit there. But the centaur did. So that was a good example of using a door. Here's an ogre. Berserker. And you'll see that I've increased my speed of play quite a bit because we're actually really strong. You're already really strong as a Minotaur Berserker, but with the good axe and the large shield we found, we're feeling very strong. Do we have a remove curse? We do. So we're going to put on this amulet. Magic regeneration. Useless. Here's a wand of lightning. So a wand of lightning is a more useful attack weapon. That's something, if we had an ID scroll, we might be tempted to ID how many charges it has, because when you use a wand that's un-ID'd, you waste charges. So we're running around tabbing stuff. Here, there's an Orc Priest. Similar, it's kind of like the same tactics we've been doing the whole game. We don't want to run in it, it's going to smite us the whole time. So what we're going to do is step back, close the door, and then just we're going to use line of sight to make the enemies come to us. It may seem kind of like it's not a big deal, but Crawl is a very fickle game. You can have situations that look not that dangerous and they will very quickly become dangerous. Let's say, for example, we'd run at the priest and it had smote, I believe it's the past tense. It had smote us twice as we approached. That in itself doesn't really threaten us, but let's say that as we then got to the priest after those 2 hits that we'd taken, and there was a dangerous unique, very suddenly, from a situation that didn't look so dangerous, we could be dying. There's a wand of disintegration. That's another very nice one. Alright, we've got 2 wizards. If this were a little bit earlier, we'd be tempted to use Trog's Hand because they could hex us, but we're so strong, we're just going to fight stuff. You notice that we now have a new ability because we have 4 piety called Brother in Arms. What this one does is it summons a Berserk. Tends to be a troll or some sort of giant. Very strong ability. As you get more piety, the failure rate will go down. There's the temple. Let's just go have a look. Because we were a Berserker, we already started off with a god. If we'd been in most other backgrounds, we wouldn't. So you can see all these altars. Hey, there's Trog. So let's say normally we didn't have a god and we came here and we're like, hey, let's be Ashen's. You'd come to the altar and you use the downstairs button again. And it will tell us about what this god does. If we use exclamation mark, we can look at the powers, we can look at how angry he gets at things. And then saying, do you want to join this religion? Good tip, don't abandon your god, because it means your god will become wrathful and he will do things that will almost certainly kill you as a low level character. We're going to say no. And it's not like we would have anyway, because Trog is a really strong god. Ooh. Does a null with an anti-magic halberd. Anti-magic doesn't really bother us too much, but same sort of thing, we're just going to use line of sight to make him come to us. Nulls really hurt, by the way. You'll see here that this null is hitting me from afar with a spear. That's the whole thing with polearms, you can hit from one tile away. So rather than attacking here and being hit by two, I'm going to move here and then using my cleave, I'm going to hit both nulls at once. That's a null sergeant with a vampiric spear. He didn't see us, so we're going to... Oh, he has now. And there's a unique. We are really strong. Edmund's yellow. What has he got? He has a flail of crushing. We're just going to Zerk, because we don't want to play around with stuff. We'll do dex. There's a regular shield. If I wanted, there'd be a lower penalty with the shield, but you can see my EV goes up to 9 when I wear this, rather than with the large shield, it drops to 7. But again, I love shields, I'd rather just have the large one. Hungry Ghost. Not a threat directly. It doesn't do any damage to you, but it will, every time it hits you, it will make you go more hungry. I don't think I've mentioned this, but if you become very hungry, you can't Zerk. So we haven't needed to eat any food other than what we automatically have from our auto butcher and auto eat. But if, for instance, we became very hungry from the Hungry Ghost, you can press your E button and you have all this food that we've picked up so far. New players tend to worry about food much more than they should have. Just eating chunks, you are more than fine. We've heard the hiss of flowing sand, so there's another portal on this level. Let's see if we can find it. And actually, what I'm going to do is, because we have all these scrolls that we haven't used, I'm just going to read them. We're at D7. I don't know. There would be some players who would be annoyed by this, because I could be reading really important ones such as a Scroll of Fear or a Scroll of Blinking, but personally I'd rather just know what I've got. So I'm going to read it on the stair, because if I read a Scroll of Teleportation, I'm going to go upstairs so I don't get randomly teleported somewhere on this level I haven't explored. And if I'm lucky, we'll find a Scroll of Magic Mapping and it will show us where that portal is. So I'm just going to go down the list. I'm using R for read. Scroll of Amnesia is to forget a spell. We have no spells. Scroll of Fear. That's exactly what I was talking about. Most enemies, it will do a check on their magic, so it's on their magic resistance, so it's stronger early. Means you can get them to run away from you. So I've just wasted that. No uselessness, does nothing. A Scroll of Noise. Also pretty useless, we'll drop that. A Scroll of Recharging. So what this will do is it will restore some charges to a wand. I don't know what level of charge these wands have, but I'll pick one. Both of these are good. I'm going to pick Disintegration because you can do trickier things that you might see later with it. Immolation. Ah, that one's fun. But potentially very dangerous. What Immolation does is it fills all the enemies you can see with an inner flame. So when you then kill an enemy with inner flame, they'll explode in this big explosion of fire, which is, until you have some fire resistance and a bit more HP, it's probably going to kill you. So good that we didn't... Hey, there's our magic mapping. It's good that we didn't just read that in front of an enemy. We can use our Shift X and our downstair finder, and it shows us that the ossuary for that portal is over here. So we're just gonna read through the rest. We have 6 scrolls of teleportation, which is really nice. Now 5. We'll go up so we don't get teleported to the middle of that floor. And Scroll of Fog, which is useful to block line of sight. It's good against... You wouldn't use it on a centaur, but it's that kind of thinking. If you have a strong ranged enemy that you really don't want to close distance to because it's going to kill you as you go there, you can use Fog to limit sight and make it come to you. We're going to move towards the ossuary. There's a plate. Ooh, there's an ogre. We're going to pick up this plate now. Okay. Well, the ogre didn't get to me, and I'd rather not Zerk and then rest because we were pretty quick getting here, but we don't want the portal to close, so we're just going to go through. And that's also why we didn't want to Zerk and then walk through slow, because we're suddenly surrounded by all these zombies. Which, again, we're really strong, so we can just fight them. Okay, but we're going to wear our plate armor, because that's a bigger armor again than the chainmail. Money, we're going to let it come to us. We got this gear. A sack of spiders is an evocable item. We're going to pick it up. I still don't want to train evocations. Okay, let's ID our disintegration ward. 60, that's really good. If I can, I will avoid training evocations. A sack of spiders, what it does is it will summon some spider allies, the strength of which depends on your skill. It's Zerk. The other thing that Zerk does is it increases your HP. So you can see while I'm Zerk I have 120, and then once I stop, only 80. Zerk is really strong. And I didn't get a corpse from these guys. First time I'm going to eat. I'm very hungry, which means I can't Zerk. So I don't want to walk around like this, just in case I have to. So I'm going to use E for the eat menu. And I'm going to eat these royal jellies. For most intents and purposes, food is the same. So it doesn't really matter which one I eat. Let's just clear this floor and then we'll end this video. I am really strong, so I'm just going to run around O-tabbing things when I pick up. I'm not sure. Sky Beast is yellow, but I'm very strong. Their thing is that they go invisible, so as you can see I can no longer see it. What I could do is I could use my direction keys to try to hit it while it's invisible. It means that it's much harder to hit, so I'm probably going to miss it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to walk away from it, because every now and then it will show itself to me. There we go. It showed itself, so now I'm going to hit it. And kill it. There's a new amulet. We have remove curse. We have 5 of them. So let's try this one on. Guardian Spirit. That's really quite good for us. What Guardian Spirit does is it means that your damage gets shared among your health and your magic. If you were a mage, this is really, really bad because your magic is what you use to kill things. You really, really don't want this. But as a Minotaur Berserker that has no use of magic at all, you may as well get our extra, what is essentially HP. That's the Fordon. Ooh, some bees. We'll deal with that in the next one.